I want you to picture a woman sitting in a lawyer's office 11 days after her husband's funeral, still wearing the kind of clothes you wear when you haven't entirely remembered to take care of yourself, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she accepted because someone handed it to her and not because she wanted it. She is there because her husband's will needs to be read and the estate needs to begin its process, and life, as it turns out, does not pause for grief no matter how total that grief happens to be. Now picture her mother-in-law sitting across the room, dressed sharply, with a folder on her lap. A folder she brought herself. A folder that did not come from the lawyer's office. And picture the moment, about 20 minutes into the meeting, when that folder gets opened and a document gets slid across the table, and the woman with the coffee cup looks down and realizes that her in-laws have not come to this meeting to grieve alongside her. They have come to take her house. That's where this story starts. Not with the grief, though the grief is everywhere in it. With a folder. With the particular coldness of people who began planning their next move before the funeral flowers had finished wilting. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what was in that folder, what I did about it, and what my mother-in-law said to me the day she finally understood that she had made a very serious miscalculation. Stick around. This one matters. Welcome back to Blood and Backbone, where we talk about the moments families don't put in the holiday newsletter. If you're new here, these stories are dramatized for entertainment, but the kind of betrayal you're about to hear, that part is real for more people than you would ever want to believe. If it's real for you too, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Let's call her Simone. 41 years old, a pediatric nurse, married for 9 years to a man named Darius, who died of a sudden cardiac event on a Tuesday morning in March, age 44, with no warning, no prior diagnosis, no goodbye. He was there Monday night. He was not there Wednesday morning. That is the entire length of the transition Simone was given, and anyone who has experienced that particular kind of loss will understand that 11 days later, sitting in a lawyer's office, a person is not entirely present in the room their body is occupying. Darius had been, in every way that mattered, a good man. A devoted husband, a careful father to their 2 children, a person who took his responsibilities seriously and documented them accordingly. He had a will. He had life insurance. He had updated both of these things 2 years earlier when they bought the house, a 4-bedroom in a quiet suburb that they had chosen specifically because of the school district and the backyard and the particular kind of permanence it represented, the sense of having arrived somewhere they intended to stay. The house was in both their names. This matters. The will left everything to Simone, with provisions for the children's education and a small bequest to a cousin Darius had been close to. It was clean, clear, and unambiguous. Simone knew all of this. She had been present when the documents were signed and had her own copies in a fireproof box in the bedroom closet. What she did not know, sitting in that lawyer's office with her coffee cup and her unwashed hair and the particular hollowness of someone 11 days into a grief that had no flaw, was that her mother-in-law Vivienne had spent at least a portion of those 11 days doing something other than mourning her son. Vivienne was a complicated woman in the way that certain mothers are complicated, which is to say she had loved Darius completely and also had never entirely accepted that loving him completely did not give her ownership of him or of the life he had chosen. She had expressed reservations about Simone from the beginning, not dramatically, not in ways that ever produced a direct confrontation, but consistently, in the small persistent way of water finding cracks. Simone was too independent. Simone worked too much. Simone's family, who were warm and close and present in a way Vivienne found somehow competitive, were always around. None of this had ever broken into open conflict because Darius had been, quietly and without drama, a man who drew lines, and Vivienne had understood, if not respected, that crossing them had consequences. With Darius gone, the lines were gone too. Or so Vivienne had apparently decided. The document in the folder was a handwritten letter, dated 6 years earlier, in which Darius had apparently expressed, in casual and informal language, a wish that if anything ever happened to him, he hoped his parents would be taken care of. The letter was not a legal document. It was not witnessed or notarized. It made no specific claims about property. But Vivienne, sitting across from Simone with her folder and her sharp clothes and her expression of someone who had prepared for this meeting the way you prepare for a negotiation rather than a condolence, presented it as though it were the founding document of an alternate estate plan. What she wanted, specifically, was the house. Not all of it. She was careful about framing. She wanted to be added to the deed, she said, as a co-owner, because Darius had clearly intended for his parents to have security, and the house was the most significant asset, and surely Simone could understand that a mother who had just lost her son needed to know she had somewhere to go. Simone looked at the letter for a long time. Then she looked at the lawyer, a woman named Patricia who had clearly seen variations of this before and whose expression conveyed a professional neutrality that was nonetheless faintly communicating something in the direction of please don't fall for this. Then she looked at Vivienne. And she said, very quietly, that she would need some time to review the document and she would be in touch. She did not agree to anything. She did not sign anything. She took the coffee cup home, sat in the car in the driveway of the house that was entirely legally hers, and allowed herself, for the first time since the Tuesday morning in March, to feel something other than grief. What she felt was a specific, clarifying anger that she would later describe to a friend as the first time since Darius died that she felt fully awake. She called Patricia the next morning. Patricia confirmed what Simone had already understood but needed to hear from a professional, which was that the handwritten letter was not legally actionable, that the will was clear and binding, that Simone's ownership of the house was not in question, and that Vivienne's request had no legal mechanism through which it could be compelled. What Patricia also said, gently, was that this kind of situation had a way of escalating if not handled carefully, and she recommended Simone respond formally rather than personally, through the office rather than a phone call, to establish early that this was a matter Simone was taking seriously and handling through proper channels. Simone agreed. The formal response went out 4 days later. It was polite, thorough, and left no ambiguity. The letter was acknowledged, its non-legal nature was noted. The existing will was cited in full, and Vivienne's request was declined. There was also a line, drafted by Patricia and approved by Simone without modification, noting that any further attempts to make claims against the estate outside of the established legal process would be treated accordingly. Vivienne did not respond to the formal letter. What she did instead, over the following 3 weeks, was begin a campaign that Simone could only describe as a sustained attempt to make her feel guilty enough to capitulate. She called Simone's children, who were 12 and 9, to tell them how much she missed their father and how much it would have meant to him for everyone to stay close. She told Darius's cousin, the one named in the will, that Simone was being difficult about the estate. She mentioned to neighbors, in the casual way of someone who understands the power of ambient reputation damage, that she was worried about the children, given everything, and she hoped Simone was managing. Simone documented every instance of this, calmly and without confrontation, in a notebook she kept specifically for the purpose, because Patricia had suggested early on that documentation was a form of protection and Simone had taken this seriously. She did not engage with the campaign publicly. She did not call Vivienne to argue. She did not enlist her own family to counter-campaign, though her mother and her sister offered with some feeling. She simply let it run, watched it run, documented it running, and waited. She was waiting for a specific thing, which was the moment Vivienne decided that the informal campaign wasn't working and escalated to something that required a formal response. That moment came 6 weeks after the lawyer's office meeting, in the form of a letter from a different attorney, not a personal communication, not a phone call, a letter from an attorney representing Vivienne and her husband, making a formal claim against the estate on the basis of the handwritten letter and a concept called moral obligation, which is not a legal standard in any jurisdiction Simone's lawyer was aware of but which the letter presented with considerable confidence. Patricia's response took 8 days to prepare and was, by Simone's description, a document so thorough and so precisely sourced that reading it felt like watching someone take apart a clock with surgical instruments. It addressed every claim in Vivienne's attorney's letter individually, cited the relevant statutes, attached the will documentation, noted the handwritten letter's lack of legal standing in detail, and concluded with a section that gently but unmistakably outlined what continued legal action would cost Vivienne in both financial and procedural terms if she chose to pursue it. The case went no further. Vivienne's attorney, having apparently reviewed Patricia's response with the specific energy of someone reconsidering a position, did not file anything. The formal claim quietly evaporated, the way these things do when the person making them realizes that the person they're making them against has better documentation, better counsel, and considerably more resolve than they initially appeared to have sitting in a lawyer's office with unwashed hair and a coffee cup they didn't want. What happened afterward was quieter and in some ways more complicated than the legal battle. Because Vivienne was still her children's grandmother. Darius's parents were still the people her kids called grandma and grandpa, still the link her children had to the father they had lost, and Simone was not a person who was willing to sever that link no matter what it had cost her to defend the house she and Darius had chosen together. She reached out to Vivienne 3 months after the legal matter closed. Not warmly, not with the old ease that had existed when Darius was alive to smooth the space between them, but directly and without hostility. She told Vivienne that she understood grief made people do things they might not otherwise do. She told her that the children needed their grandmother and she was not going to stand in the way of that relationship. She told her, with the same clarity she'd brought to every interaction since the folder came out in the lawyer's office, that the house was not a subject she would revisit, and that if Vivienne could accept that, there was still a version of a relationship available to both of them, for the sake of the children and for the memory of Darius, who had loved them both. Vivienne was quiet for a very long time on that phone call. When she spoke, her voice had lost whatever quality it had carried into that lawyer's office, the sharpness, the preparation, the folder energy. What was left underneath it was something Simone recognized, because she had been living inside it herself for months. Grief. Just grief. Unmedicated and undirected, and looking for somewhere to land that wasn't the correct legal answer. She didn't apologize, not in any full or formal way. But she said, and Simone is precise about the exact wording of this because she wrote it in the notebook later that evening, "I think I was angry at you for being alive when he wasn't. That wasn't fair to you." It was not a full accounting of what had happened. But it was true, and it was offered without prompting, and for Simone it was enough to work with. They have a relationship now, she and Vivienne, that is careful and somewhat formal and organized almost entirely around the children's schedule. It is not the relationship they had when Darius was alive. But it is functional and it is honest, and it does not require Simone to pretend that a folder full of questionable documents was something other than what it was. The house is still Simone's. She repainted the kitchen last spring, a color Darius would have liked. The children's heights are still marked on the doorframe in the hallway, and she has made a rule that nobody marks over them and nobody measures shorter, only taller. There are ways to keep someone in a house that have nothing to do with a deed. And there are ways to protect what someone left you that have nothing to do with anger. Simone figured out both, in the same year, more or less at the same time. Here's what I keep coming back to with this one. Simone did not fight out of bitterness. She fought out of clarity. She knew what Darius had intended because she had been there when he documented it, and she was not willing to let grief, hers or anyone else's, be used as a mechanism for rewriting something he had been deliberate about. Sometimes protecting what someone left you is the last act of love you can offer them. She kept the house. She kept the relationship, in the form it could honestly take. And she kept the notebook, just in case. If this story hit close to home for you, drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in that lawyer's office. And if you want more stories like this one, I've got a new one coming this week. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next story.